While the rest of the royal family prepares to gather at Sandringham for what insiders say King Charles is treating as potentially his final Christmas, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will be nowhere in sight. This marks their 7th consecutive year excluded from the traditional royal festivities, and according to devastating new assessments from royal biographer Tom Bower, the couple finds themselves in their most precarious position yet. The contrast could not be more stark. At the sprawling Norfolk estate, King Charles will host Queen Camilla, alongside Prince William, Princess Catherine, and their children for the cherished traditions that have defined royal Christmases for generations. The morning church walk at St. Mary Magdalene, the exchange of gifts on Christmas Eve, the elaborate feasts and parlor games that Harry once wrote warmly about in his memoir. Meanwhile, some 5,000 miles away in Montecito, California, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex will spend the holiday increasingly isolated, their celebrity friends having largely abandoned them and their business ventures crumbling around them. Tom Bower has delivered a brutal assessment of where Harry now stands within the royal ecosystem. Speaking to OK Magazine, the veteran biographer declared that Harry simply gets in the way of King Charles's legacy and the smooth transition to William. Despite a brief 54-minute meeting between father and son at Clarence House back in September, their first face-to-face encounter in over a year, no invitation to Sandringham was forthcoming. Bower stated plainly that there is just no way back for the Duke, a damning verdict on years of bridges burned and relationships destroyed. Palace insiders paint a picture of a king who, despite battling cancer and facing his own mortality, has made peace with his younger son's absence. Sources close to the situation reveal that Charles wants a special last Christmas in case it's his last, yet that desire for family togetherness apparently does not extend to the California contingent. The likelihood of the Sussex family receiving an invitation was described as slim by those familiar with the situation, with concerns mounting over whether or not trust can be rebuilt after Harry and Meghan's continued Hollywood antics. What makes this Christmas particularly significant is the financial storm clouds gathering over the Montecito mansion. Bower has signaled that the Sussexes are facing nothing short of a financial emergency, with their Netflix deal downgraded, their lifestyle brand struggling, and their earning potential evaporating by the day. The couple, who once commanded a reported $100 million streaming deal, now find themselves scrambling for relevance in an industry that has grown tired of their victimhood narrative. The holiday season that should bring joy and family connection will instead serve as a painful reminder of everything Harry sacrificed when he chose to follow Meghan across the Atlantic. And as the champagne flows at Sandringham and the royal family gathers before crackling fires, the Sussexes will be left to confront an uncomfortable truth. Their Montecito fantasy is beginning to shatter, and the financial reckoning Tom Bower has warned about may have finally arrived. When Harry and Meghan first signed with Netflix back in 2020, the headlines trumpeted a staggering $100 million deal that would cement their status as Hollywood power players. 5 years later, the reality could not be more humiliating. The Sussexes have quietly been downgraded to what industry insiders call a first-look arrangement, and sources are whispering that the new terms amount to almost nothing. A source speaking to Page 6 delivered the devastating verdict that the renegotiated deal is simply not much. They added that the arrangement represents no risk for Netflix, but saves them both reputationally. Let that sink in for a moment. The streaming giant that once threw money at the royal couple with abandon has now structured an agreement that costs them virtually nothing, while allowing both parties to save face publicly. Entertainment editor Peter Ford broke down exactly what this means in practical terms. Netflix is no longer obligated to fund any Sussex project. They simply get first refusal on ideas, and if they pass, Harry and Meghan can shop elsewhere. This is not a partnership. This is a polite dismissal dressed up in corporate language. Tom Bower has been even more blunt about the situation. Speaking recently, the biographer declared that Meghan has no real income anymore and that she is effectively finished in the entertainment industry. He pointed to the cold hard truth that the Netflix series is over in any meaningful sense. There is no great podcast generating revenue, and the couple simply does not produce content that attracts viewers. Bower sees a major problem on the horizon and believes Meghan has nowhere left to turn. The trajectory tells the whole story. Their debut documentary, Harry and Meghan, became the biggest documentary launch in Netflix history, drawing over 81 million hours viewed in its first week alone. That success gave them leverage and credibility, but everything since has been a slow-motion disaster. Live to Lead failed to crack the top 10. Heart of Invictus vanished without a trace. Harry's Polo documentary managed a pathetic 500,000 views over 6 months, ranking an embarrassing 3,436 on Netflix's internal charts. The streaming giant clearly hoped their overall deal would produce consistent hits that justified the massive investment. Instead, they received a handful of projects that generated headlines but not viewership. The transition to a first-look deal mirrors exactly what happened with Barack and Michelle Obama's Higher Ground production company. Though Meghan has tried to spin this as somehow comparable to the former president's arrangement, the key difference is that the Obamas had already delivered multiple successful projects before their deal evolved. The Sussexes have delivered mostly disappointment. What makes this particularly devastating is that Netflix represented the cornerstone of their entire post-royal financial strategy. Without guaranteed streaming income, the couple must now scramble for every dollar. And as Tom Bauer has warned, the next few months will determine whether their California dream survives or collapses entirely under the weight of financial reality. If there was any doubt about the Sussex brand's decline, Netflix's own ratings data has delivered the final verdict. With Love, Meghan, the lifestyle series that was supposed to establish the Duchess as the next Martha Stewart, has proven to be an unmitigated disaster. The numbers are so bad they almost defy belief, and they signal that Meghan's television career may have reached its terminal point. When Netflix released its What We Watched report for the first half of 2025, the results were devastating. With Love, Meghan ranked number 383 on the platform's internal charts, pulling in a mere 5.3 million views since its March debut. To put that humiliation into perspective, reruns of Suits, the show Meghan left nearly a decade ago, actually outperformed her new series. Multiple seasons of her old USA Network drama ranked higher than the lifestyle show she executive produced and starred in. The actress has somehow been beaten by her own ghost. The season 2 premiere brought even worse news. Despite featuring celebrity guests like Chrissy Teigen, John Legend, and Tan France, the show failed to crack the top 10 anywhere in the world. Not in the United States, not in the United Kingdom, not in Canada. Nowhere. The Rotten Tomatoes scores tell the story of critical rejection. Season 1 managed a dismal 38%, Season 2 plummeted to 20%, and then came the holiday special, which achieved something almost unprecedented in streaming history. It debuted with a 0% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, making it one of the worst-reviewed programs in the platform's history. Critics have been savage in their assessments. The Guardian called it so painfully contrived that it's genuinely fascinating. Others described it as a series in search of a meaning, fronted by a woman in need of some cash. Celebrity chef Jameson Stocks, who has cooked for King Charles, declared that Meghan Markle should be nowhere near a kitchen after watching her melt chocolate in a microwave. Social media erupted with mockery, TikTok parodies went viral, and the general consensus was that the show felt boring, pretentious, and hopelessly out of touch. Public relations experts have essentially written the obituary for the series. Eric Schiffer, chairman of Reputation Management Consultants, told Newsweek that when a royal brand cannot crack the board, it's likely an obituary for Season 3. He noted that even hate watchers stayed home for Season 2, which represents a catastrophic failure in audience engagement. Brand expert Nick Eady agreed, pointing out that Netflix operates entirely on algorithms and viewer metrics. The first season created a brief cultural moment. The second season was panned and felt like a side dish rather than a main dish. The holiday special may well be the final episode of With Love, Meghan ever produced. Reports suggest Netflix wants Meghan to work on her image before agreeing to any future projects. For a woman who dreamed of building a lifestyle empire, the cooking show collapse represents a devastating setback from which recovery looks increasingly unlikely. Meghan's lifestyle brand As Ever was supposed to be the foundation of her post-royal empire, a carefully curated collection of jams, honey, teas, and wine that would establish her as a tastemaker for the ages. Instead, the brand has become yet another symbol of Sussex overreach, struggling to find customers even when one of the most powerful women in media personally tried to boost its profile. Reports have emerged that Oprah Winfrey herself attempted to rescue Meghan's floundering products by quietly including As Ever jam in her famous 2025 favorite things list. For decades, an Oprah endorsement could transform unknown products into overnight sensations. Brands would sell out within hours of appearing on her list, but when Oprah posted about Meghan's jam, sources say the response was devastating. A retail insider told Rob Shooter's program that there was simply no demand. They described the gesture as a favor, not a phenomenon, a damning assessment of just how little influence the Sussex brand now commands. The broader metrics paint an equally grim picture. Brand intelligence platform. SimilarWeb revealed that the As Ever website received just 196,000 monthly visits in October. By comparison, Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop pulled in over 800,000 visits during the same period. Meghan's lifestyle venture is generating barely a quarter of the traffic enjoyed by her competitor, despite all the media attention surrounding the Duchess. The numbers suggest that curiosity about Meghan does not translate into customers willing to purchase her products. Making matters worse, reports indicate that Netflix's investment in As Ever has created a situation where Meghan sees very little actual profit. A source told the Daily Mail that Meghan is literally lost because the whole venture has not worked out as she expected. They claim that nobody has seen any real figures, but the belief is that they are not good. The source added pointedly that Netflix essentially owns the business, meaning any revenue generated flows primarily to the streaming giant rather than to Meghan herself. The ultimate humiliation came with the opening of Netflix House in Dallas, Texas this December. The interactive retail experience features merchandise and themed attractions from the streamer's biggest shows including Bridgerton, Squid Game, and Stranger Things. Notably absent from the shelves are any as-ever products whatsoever. Despite Netflix's heavy investment in the lifestyle brand and their partnership with Meghan, the company apparently saw no value in stocking her jams and candles alongside their successful properties. Sources close to the Duchess tried to downplay the snub by insisting as-ever products were only ever meant to be sold on their own website, but the optics remain devastating. Tom Bower has warned that this Christmas represents make-or-break time for Meghan's business ventures. He posed the critical question directly: are people really prepared to pay $32 for a jar of honey from the Duchess of Sussex? The answer from consumers so far appears to be a resounding no, and if sales do not improve over the holiday season, Bower says the couple faces a real problem heading into the new year. Remember when Harry and Meghan were the toast of Tinseltown? When A-list celebrities lined up to be associated with the glamorous royal couple who had bravely escaped the stuffy confines of palace life? Those days feel like ancient history now. Hollywood has delivered its verdict on the Sussexes, and it is absolutely brutal. The roster of celebrity friends who have quietly distanced themselves reads like a who's who of entertainment royalty. The Clooneys, who attended their wedding and once seemed inseparable from the couple, have largely vanished from their orbit. The Obamas, whose production company Higher Ground was supposed to be a model for Archewell, maintain a polite but notable distance. David Furnish and Elton John, who performed at their wedding reception, have reportedly moved on entirely. Even neighbor Oprah Winfrey, whose bombshell interview launched 1,000 headlines, appears to have cooled on her friendship with the Duchess despite that quiet favor with her favorite things list. The public mockery has been equally savage. At the Golden Globe Awards, comedian Joe Coy took direct aim at the couple before a global audience. He joked that Succession had earned 9 nominations for being a great series about a rich white dysfunctional family, all scheming before pausing to add that he was confusing it with The Crown. Then came the real dagger. Coy declared that Harry and Meghan got paid millions for doing absolutely nothing, and that was just from Netflix. The audience laughed. The Sussexes were not present to defend themselves. Tom Bower has painted a devastating picture of their current Hollywood standing. He observed that what is remarkable is how they end up ridiculed in Hollywood, ignored in New York, and forced to grovel for attention. That groveling became painfully apparent this year when Meghan turned up at Kevin Costner's charity event for emergency workers, an event she had conspicuously skipped the previous year. Bower noted that last year she avoided the appearance because she was about to promote her Netflix series and did not want to be seen giving her time for free. This year, desperate for visibility, she showed up. The contrast speaks volumes about her declining leverage. The Hollywood Reporter, arguably the entertainment industry's most influential publication, named Harry and Meghan among 2023's biggest losers. They wrote that in 2020, the royal duo fled a life of ceremonial public service to cash in their celebrity status in the States, but the returns have been diminishing ever since. The couple who once commanded private jets and security details now find themselves scrambling for relevance in an industry that has grown weary of their grievances. What makes this freeze-out particularly painful is that Hollywood was supposed to be their salvation. The entertainment capital was meant to embrace them as royalty in exile, showering them with opportunities and adoration. Instead, they have discovered that celebrity status without sustained success has a very short shelf life. The parties have stopped, the invitations have dried up, and the couple who once seemed poised to conquer America now find themselves increasingly alone. The $14.65 million mansion was supposed to be their sanctuary, a place where Harry and Meghan could build a new life far from the pressures and protocols of royal existence. Instead, the sprawling 9-bedroom estate has become something closer to a gilded cage, its walls closing in as the couple's social circle shrinks and their business ventures falter. When they first purchased the property in 2020, Meghan gushed to the cut about how it made her feel. She described walking in and experiencing immediate joy, exhale, and calm. She called it healing and said it made her feel free. 5 years later, sources paint a very different picture of life inside those walls. The Duchess is described as literally lost as her carefully constructed plans collapse around her. The as-ever brand has not delivered the expected returns. The Netflix shows have flopped, and the celebrity friends who once added sparkle to Montecito gatherings have largely stopped coming around. Consider what Christmas will look like inside that mansion. There will be Archie and Lilibet, of course, along with the paid staff who maintain the property, the gardeners, the security personnel, the household employees who keep the estate running. But where are the famous friends? Where are the glamorous dinner parties that were supposed to define their California existence? The Clooneys are not dropping by. Oprah is not popping over from next door. The celebrity ecosystem that was supposed to embrace them has moved on to more interesting subjects. Tom Bower has described the couple as existing in a very isolated place, particularly during the holiday season. He noted that Meghan remains unreconciled with her own family, refuses to return to Britain, and has effectively cut Harry off from his relatives as well. The result is a household that, despite its luxury and square footage, feels increasingly empty. They are rattling around that mansion, Bower suggested, bored, isolated, and lonely. The contrast with what Harry left behind could not be more painful. At Sandringham, the royal family will gather for their traditional Christmas chaos. Cousins running through hallways, hunting expeditions across the estate, elaborate parlor games, and inside jokes accumulated over decades. Harry once cherished these moments. Royal commentators say he wrote warmly about Christmas memories in his memoir Spare, suggesting the holiday still holds deep emotional significance for the prince, even as he spends it thousands of miles from home. Instead of that warmth and connection, Harry faces another California Christmas defined by Meghan's aesthetic. The calligraphy labels on every dish, the carefully staged photographs, the Netflix cameras that once captured their every move now gone, leaving behind only the echo of what might have been. Sources close to the situation suggest Harry has become increasingly aware of the trade he made when he followed his wife across the Atlantic. The Montecito mansion may have doubled in value to nearly $29 million according to recent estimates, but no amount of real estate appreciation can compensate for the isolation that has settled over its inhabitants like a fog. For years, Prince Harry has presented a united front with his wife, defending their decisions and attacking anyone who dared criticize their choices. But cracks are beginning to show in that carefully maintained facade, and royal insiders are whispering that the prince is finally starting to understand exactly what he sacrificed when he abandoned his family for life in California. Sources speaking to multiple outlets have painted a picture of a man slowly awakening to an uncomfortable truth. One royal insider revealed that Harry blames Meghan for the ongoing estrangement from his family and has become deeply resentful of his wife over the situation. The source claimed that Harry has reserved most of his anger not for the relatives who have excluded him from Christmas gatherings, but for Meghan herself, who he considers responsible for turning him against his own flesh and blood. Tom Bower has been characteristically blunt in his assessment of Harry's predicament. The biographer pointed out that Meghan's relationships with both families act directly against Harry's own instinctive interests. She remains estranged from her father Thomas, refuses to reconcile with her siblings, and has effectively severed Harry's connections to the Windsors as well. The result, Bower observed, is that the couple is left in a very isolated place, particularly during emotionally significant times like Christmas. The body language tells its own story. Royal watchers have noted Harry's demeanor at public appearances, describing him as increasingly subdued and uncomfortable. During their infamous Time 100 appearance in New York, observers noted that Harry seemed to hang back, literally carrying bags while Meghan commanded attention. He has been described as the spare in his own marriage, a passenger rather than a partner, his hunched shoulders and doleful expression suggesting a man who has lost his way. Those who knew Harry before Meghan entered his life speak of a completely different person. The prince was once considered the most popular member of the royal family, even more beloved than Queen Elizabeth herself according to some polls. He was gregarious, fun-loving, and carefree. He served in the military with distinction, connected with ordinary people effortlessly, and seemed genuinely happy in his own skin. Friends say they barely recognize the bitter, angry man who now delivers gloomy speeches at Invictus Games ceremonies and picks fights with everyone from the British press to the President of the United States. Grant Harold, a royal butler who knew William and Harry intimately for years, has spoken publicly about the transformation. He revealed that Harry's old friends simply do not hear from him anymore. The connections that once defined his life have withered away, replaced by Meghan's circle of paid associates and professional contacts. Whether Harry will act on this dawning realization remains uncertain. The couple presents themselves as fully aligned, with sources telling People magazine that outside drama never creates friction between them. But as another Christmas passes in Montecito, while his family gathers at Sandringham, the weight of everything Harry has lost must surely press upon him with increasing force. Despite all of Harry's reported attempts to rebuild bridges with his father, King Charles has made one thing abundantly clear this Christmas. The door to Sandringham remains firmly shut to the California contingent, and according to those closest to the situation, that door may never open again. The September meeting at Clarence House was supposed to represent a turning point. Father and son sat together for 54 minutes, their first face-to-face encounter in over 18 months. Harry had flown across the Atlantic specifically for this conversation, reportedly hoping to ingratiate himself back into the family fold. But whatever was discussed during that brief meeting, it clearly failed to produce the reconciliation Harry may have been seeking. Tom Bower delivered a devastating assessment of the encounter's aftermath. He told OK Magazine that Harry was granted those 54 minutes with the king by the skin of his teeth, but was explicitly told that not a word must be spoken about it. What did Harry do next? He traveled to Ukraine, spoke with reporters, and declared he had no regrets for anything he said in Spare. He also gave an interview to The Guardian, a publication that has openly advocated for abolishing the monarchy. The message could not have been clearer. Harry remains incapable of keeping royal confidences or prioritizing family relationships over his own media profile. Bauer stated plainly that there is just no way back for the prince. He explained that Charles is not only battling for survival against cancer, but also focused on securing his legacy and ensuring a smooth transition to William. Harry, quite simply, just gets in the way of those priorities. The king has apparently made peace with the reality that his younger son has chosen a different path, one that leads away from Sandringham and everything it represents. The security battle adds another layer of complication. Harry has been fighting through British courts to restore taxpayer-funded police protection for his family during UK visits. He recently won a Home Office review that could potentially open the door to bringing Meghan and the children to Britain. But even if successful, the question remains whether any invitation would actually be extended. King Charles has reportedly met his grandchildren Archie and Lilibet only once, a staggering estrangement that shows no signs of healing. Sources close to the palace describe this Christmas as bittersweet for the monarch. Charles reportedly wants to make the most of his time with family, acutely aware that his cancer treatment continues and the future remains uncertain. He will participate fully in every tradition, from the church walk to the king's speech, determined that nothing will stop him from fulfilling his duties. But that determination apparently does not extend to bridging the gap with his youngest son. The isolation Harry must feel knowing his father is potentially spending his final Christmases surrounded by family while he sits 5,000 miles away cannot be understated. The king's door remains closed and Tom Bauer suggests it may never open again. Tom Bauer has issued his starkest warning yet about the Sussexes' future. According to the veteran biographer, this Christmas represents nothing less than make or break time for Meghan and Harry. If their business ventures fail to gain traction over the holiday season, they face what Bauer describes as a real problem about what they will do in 2026. The financial pressures are mounting from every direction. The Netflix deal that once guaranteed substantial income has been downgraded to a first-look arrangement worth, according to sources, almost nothing in guaranteed payments. The as-ever lifestyle brand has failed to capture consumer imagination despite heavy promotion and even Oprah's personal endorsement. With Love, Meghan has cratered in the ratings, making a third season increasingly unlikely. And Harry himself has demonstrated zero entrepreneurial ability, with every venture he touches seemingly turning to mud. Bauer laid out the mathematics with brutal clarity. He questioned whether people are really prepared to pay $32 for a jar of honey from the Duchess of Sussex. If those products do not sell over Christmas, the most important retail season of the year, the couple faces a genuine crisis. Their lifestyle requires substantial income to maintain. The Montecito mansion alone demands enormous resources for staff, security, and upkeep. Without reliable revenue streams, something will eventually have to give. The contrast with their original expectations could not be more stark. When Harry and Meghan departed royal life in 2020, they appeared to hold all the cards. Netflix offered $100 million. Spotify came calling with additional millions. Book deals, speaking engagements, and brand partnerships seemed to promise unlimited earning potential. They were the hottest commodity in entertainment, a real-life prince and princess ready to conquer America. 5 years later, the Spotify deal has collapsed entirely after executives reportedly called Meghan difficult to work with. The Netflix arrangement has been dramatically reduced, speaking fees have dropped as interest wanes, and the celebrity endorsements that once seemed inevitable have failed to materialize. The couple who expected to build a billion-dollar empire now find themselves scrambling to maintain relevance. Royal commentators have begun speculating about the unthinkable. If income continues to decline while expenses remain high, the Sussexes may eventually need to downsize their California lifestyle. The mansion that was supposed to symbolize their triumphant independence could become a financial albatross they cannot afford to maintain. The staff that surrounds them might need to be reduced. The security arrangements that cost hundreds of thousands annually might need to be reconsidered. Bauer believes the next few months are absolutely critical for determining the couple's trajectory. Either they find a way to monetize their remaining fame and connections, or they face a slow slide into irrelevance and financial strain. The biographer is already gathering material for his next book on the Sussexes, set for release in early 2026. If his warnings prove accurate, that book may document nothing less than the complete collapse of the Montecito fantasy they worked so hard to construct. As we approach the final days of 2025, one question hangs over the Montecito mansion like a gathering storm. How much longer can Harry and Meghan sustain the fantasy they have so carefully constructed? The evidence suggests that the illusion is already crumbling, and 2026 may bring a reckoning that neither of them can avoid. The contrast between the two courts could not be more striking. At Sandringham, the Windsor firm will gather around their ailing king, united by duty, tradition, and genuine family bonds forged over generations. At Montecito, the Sussex brand will attempt another carefully staged Christmas, complete with calligraphy labels and Netflix cameras that nobody seems to want to watch. One represents continuity and purpose. The other increasingly resembles a lifestyle influencer operation that has lost its audience. Tom Bower is already preparing his next book on the couple, promising fresh revelations about their ongoing struggles. The biographer has gathered substantial new material and believes the world remains captivated by their story, though perhaps not in the way Harry and Meghan would prefer. Their trajectory from royal darlings to Hollywood outcasts represents a cautionary tale about hubris, miscalculation, and the limits of celebrity in an age of short attention spans. The whispers about their marriage have grown louder in recent months. Royal commentators have placed the couple on what they call divorce watch, speculating about how long Harry can remain content in his diminished role. Sources insist they remain fully aligned and operate as a team, but the body language tells a different story. Harry appears increasingly like a man who has realized too late what he surrendered. Meghan appears determined to push forward regardless of the mounting evidence that her strategy has failed. If divorce does eventually come, the implications for Harry would be devastating. Looking at Meghan's treatment of her own father, languishing in a Philippine hospital after emergency surgery while his daughter sends letters rather than visiting, one can only imagine how she might handle a separation. Thomas Markle has not seen his daughter or met his grandchildren despite years of pleading. Harry could find himself in precisely the same position, cut off from Archie and Lilibet just as thoroughly as Meghan's father has been cut off from her. The Montecito fantasy was built on the premise that fame and royal connections would translate into unlimited American success. That premise has proven catastrophically wrong. The Netflix deal has evaporated. The lifestyle brand is struggling. Hollywood has moved on, and the family Harry abandoned continues celebrating Christmas without him, apparently content to let the estrangement stand indefinitely. What happens next remains uncertain, but Tom Bower's warning echoes loudly. The Sussexes face a financial emergency that no amount of carefully staged Instagram posts can resolve. The fantasy is shattering, and the new year may bring harsh realities that even Meghan's formidable public relations machinery cannot spin into something positive. Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned because the next chapter of this saga is coming, and you will not believe what happens next.